Welcome back. We're on home stretch now on the program as we continue our focus on the telecoms industry. And as you've already seen from our topic, is the consumer king, at least in the telecoms industry? That's what we'd like to talk about now. I'm being joined on the program by Adiolu Ogunbanjo. He is the President, Consumer Rights Advocacy Group. Good morning to you. Thank you for coming in.
It's a pleasure.
So, listening to the conversation with the representative from the regulatory arm, that's the NCC, Mr. Tony Ojobo, and with what's in reality on ground, would you say the consumer is king in the telecoms industry?
Not at all. Currently, the consumer is not king. In fact, the consumer is suffering. Poor quality of service is actually militating, against the consumer, and the consumer is actually not enjoying telecom services as we speak.
But then Mr. Ojobo has explained that that could not be unconnected to infrastructure issues, which they've been trying to sort out with the telecom service providers, and at least for some of the states where, this telecom service providers want to lay some of their equipment and infrastructure, they're trying to get an agreement with it. So could the customer at this time begin to understand that it's really not a situation where it's entirely the telecoms provider's fault or the regulator's fault, but a general discomfort that everybody has to feel?
Thank you very much. You see, I must also tell you that telecoms is a business, and businesses must face challenges from time to time. And basically, these challenges have to be also addressed. And it is the way that these challenges are solved or being addressed that is what now takes the consumer to ensure that, the operators to ensure that, look, let us quickly address these issues so that the consumer can be served and served well, enjoying their services. But that is not what we're having. It's always excuses, excuses, excuses. Yes, I listened to some of the challenges, but then in the process of, addressing these challenges, there are issues. The consumer suffers poor quality of service. What do you then do? You, from time to time, evaluate the network like NCC normally does, I think either quarterly or 6 monthly. They evaluate through the key performance indicator parameters, and then the moment that is falling short of, then compensate the consumer. Look, give the consumer some benefit to say, look, you've stayed with us through thick and thin, and then because you've been there for us, take this X amount for suffering poor quality of service.
But then you also have to remember that these telecom service providers are not in it for charity, they're also in it for business. And as much as they want to provide good quality service to their customers, they also want to make profits. And so at the end of the day, we also have to realize that they are also in a tight spot as well.
Yes. However, in the process of service, you must also appreciate and understand that there are defaults, when you, even in the manufacturing sector, when you are maybe, making some or you're manufacturing some product, there are shortfalls, there are seconds, things that are not really up to standard. So what do? You have to understand that consumers, particularly subscribers of telecom services, must be compensated from time to time. Imagine calling and then the recipient is, hearing you, and the caller is not being heard. Oh. So, who loses? It is a subscriber due to poor quality of service. I've sent an SMS, and there you are. It has been, it is not delivered, and my money has been removed. These are issues. A lot of other issues that has to be addressed through poor quality of service. But the consumer, the subscriber, suffers a lot and is not being looked at least give me something to compensate me.
Do you think the NCC has done well with regards to its supervisory role?
I would say the NCC has been averagely okay. To my mind, currently, at least they've set up a 9-man committee, to look into the issue of poor quality of service. I mean, the new administration of Dr. Dambata.
Professor Umar.
Professor Dambata. So that is a good step in the right direction. But even if it has now been identified, I think the committee has 6 months to do their job. But even with that, let us look at a scenario where at the end of it, let there be some form of caveat, some form of provision that, look, the moment they fall short of poor quality of service, they have to be compensated. Look at the case of unsolicited messages. They are there, you know, removal of credits, and then all they do is sorry, and all that. And sometimes the consumer is not encouraged to go to court because maybe they would just remove 200 naira or something, and he will now look at the cost if I engage a lawyer and all that. So this, you know, must, I mean, the NCC must look at, so that they will now direct the operators to say, look, this quarter, the key performance, or this half year, your key performance indicators is below average. So operator A, operator B, operator C, you have to do this to consumers on your network. But
then if you listen to the conversation I had with the Director of Public Affairs of the NCC, he said there's actually a toll-free number that customers can call if they've got complaints. That's if they've gone to the first port of call and the commission and they don't get any response, then they can shoot it up to the NCC, 622. You call and you make your complaints, and you know, to be properly followed through. So that's another thing, and that's another avenue that's, you know, we have to look at. Have customers actually really looked into tabling their complaints with the NCC using this toll-free number?
Yes, from time to time, some consumers, some customers have called this number, and yes, I must say, some of them are satisfied and some are still dissatisfied. But beyond that is the fact that the toll-free number, I mean, the processes, you know, should be made available at all times, maybe advertised on radio and television to say, look, these are the processes. First, complain to your operator, and if nothing is done to your satisfaction, then you can escalate to the commission, the NCC, by dialing 622 toll-free number.
But then, are you satisfied with, you know, like you said, some get, some are happy with the way their complaints are resolved and some are not. Are you satisfied, as the president of an advocacy group, are you satisfied with the level of how complaints are actually handled, whether by the operator or the commission?
Well, currently with the network operators, I'm not happy at all, because the same complaint is being, you know, is being repeated all the time. Removal of credits, unsolicited messages, SMSs sent, delivered, I mean not delivered, and my money is off, and you know, so many other complaints. But as far as the 622 toll-free number, they are still doing averagely well.
Okay, so looking at this the new commission under the Executive Vice Chairman, Professor Umar Dan Batal, what are your expectations?
Thank you very much. I expect the new management of NCC to look into the issue of subscribers' compensation. 1. 2, I also would want a situation where he will look into ensuring that it is easier to look at cyber crime. I mean, it is easy to report cyber crime and actions taken against. Currently, it's not been easy. It's not been easy at all.
Mr. Ogunbanjo, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning and sharing your thoughts with us. Adeolu Ogunbanjo is the President, Consumer Rights Advocacy Group. He joined me on the program to share his thoughts on also issues with regards to the telecom sector. But that's the program for today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I'm Harriet Agbinyi. Have a profitable day.